What is going on, fellow Guardians? Glad to have you with Drew. And in today's video, we'll be talking about an epic hunter build that does not revolve around an exotic class item. The exotic item that we will be using is Moth Keeper's Wraps. Now, I absolutely love this piece of gear. What it does is it turns your grenade into a heat-seeking arc grenade. It'll also seek out to you or an ally if no enemy is around to provide you with a void overshield. Now, this overshield has saved me and my teammates multiple times. So this piece of gear is absolutely incredible and epic. And one of the things it does not mention in the description is you actually get 2 grenades, which is going to come in handy for us being able to use our abilities all the time. Now, if you don't already have Moth Keeper's Wraps, what you can do is go to the tower and speak to Rahul. As long as you have at least 1 exotic Cypher and 1 exotic Ingram, you'll be able to go to his focus decoding. And if you prestige him at least 1 time, you'll be able to unlock the exotic item that way. Now let's go ahead and jump into the Prismatic setup. We'll be starting out with Gambler's Dodge. This is my absolute favorite dodge in the game as it restores our melee ability, which will be Withering Blade. Now, just like your Moth grenades, you get 2 charges of this, so when you dodge by a nearby enemy, we'll immediately get another one back. For the jump, this is all personal preference. I like triple jump, pick whatever jump you like, but this is the jump that I choose for this build. For the grenade slot, it does not matter which grenade you pick. With Moths equipped, we get 2 of them, and they are an arc grenade, and they are set to their own time, which I believe is 135 or 145. The grenade you pick in this slot does not matter. On to the aspects, we're going to be using Winter's Shroud. Now, I absolutely love this because not only does it slow nearby enemies, but it's also going to give us class ability regeneration, so we get our class ability back even faster. It also comes with 3 fragment slots, which fragments are very important and key to this build. Now, the next aspect we're going to be selecting is Threaded Spectre. Now, I know everyone might be saying, Drew, what is going on? Stylus Executioner is a must when it comes to hunter builds, which I have a lot of builds that include this. However, Threaded Spectre is going to give us an additional fragment slot. The clone that it generates is also going to distract nearby enemies, which is kind of going to be like going invisible, but it's also going to cause an explosion and threadlings, which will cause darkness damage. Another aspect you can contemplate taking is Gunpowder Gamble. Now, this does give you that additional fragment slot. However, Moss proc this so fast that I was having it at times where I didn't want it, so I ended up just throwing it randomly just to get my Moss back because I needed to cause a jolt or possibly get a Void Overshield. So that's why we were picking these 2 specific aspects of Winter's Shroud and Threaded Spectre. Now, jumping into the fragments, this is what's going to bring this build incredible synergy and power and take it to that next level. Starting out with one of my favorite fragments in the game, Facet of Bravery. This is going to allow when we defeat an enemy with a grenade to give us volatile rounds, and when we defeat an enemy with a melee to give us unraveling rounds, which will help our weapons, which we'll get into here in just a moment. Next, we'll be selecting Facet of Dominance, which will enable our Moth grenades to jolt targets, which will cause a chain of lightning, increase damage, and also stun overload champions. Then we'll be selecting Facet of Courage, which allows your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities to deal increased damage to targets afflicted with Darkness debuff. We'll be doing a lot of Darkness debuffs with this build. It also gives us plus 10 Discipline, which is a nice boost for stats for regenerating our grenade faster. Following that, we'll be selecting Facet of Balance, where rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage generates grenade energy, just giving us more synergy to having more abilities all the time. Now getting into the survivability aspects of this build, Facet of Purpose is going to allow us that anytime we pick up an Orb of Power that we're going to get Frost Armor. Now this is one of the best protections in the game. It also stacks, so the more Orbs of Power we pick up, which will be generating a lot, the more Frost Armor we will have. Now you can kind of go with Facet of Mending if you'd like, which your grenade kills will then allow us to get health back. I've tested it. I really like the Frost Armor a lot better, so this is definitely why I chose Facet of Purpose. There's also Facet of Dawn, which can help make us Radiant, but there's going to be another way we'll get into in just a moment where we're going to be Radiant all of the time with one of the aspects that we pick from our journal. And wrapping up with the last fragment for this build, we're going to pick Facet of Protection. While surrounded by enemies, we're going to be more resistant to incoming damage. This is going to help us in harder in-game content. Moving on to the super we'll be selecting for this build, we will be choosing Silence and Squall. It is a darkness-based ability, so we will be able to pair this very well with the fragments, abilities, and aspects that we have chosen. It has one of the lower base cooldown times, so we'll have our super a lot more often. And because we selected Facet of Purpose, we will get Frost Armor anytime we pick up an Orb of Power. For stats, I recommend Resilience, Discipline, and Strength in that order. That will allow us to get our grenade and melees back as fast as possible so that we can maximize the synergy of this build. Jumping into the Hunter's Journal for the artifact selection for this build, you can take a screenshot to make it a lot easier, but starting off, we're going to be selecting Anti-Barrier Pulse Rifle. This is going to make it any barrier champions can get stunned, any shields from knights, anything does not matter, we're going to shred right through it with our Pulse Rifle. Next will be Unstoppable Sidearm. This is going to make the call that we're using even stronger. To show you how to activate this perk, you basically just aim down sight, wait till you see the gun flash, and then just fire away and make the call even stronger than it already is. The next artifact doesn't really matter in that slot, but in the second here, we're going to choose Overcharged Armory and Winning Hand. The call does come with Dealer's Choice, so that's going to just add some additional stats to that weapon. Press the Advantage is going to be our best selection here for the weapons we're choosing. Now, if you are choosing a sword for your power weapon, you can decide between those two. I recommend Press the Advantage, but then Threaded Blast is an absolute must. Anytime you see a tangle, switch to the call, fire away, and watch the fireworks go off. This is just absolutely incredible and clears rooms. Galvanic Armor is also going to be excellent because we have Prismatic equipped, so we are going to get amplified after we get rapid kills with our Moths. Radiant Orbs, this is as I mentioned earlier, we do not need Facet of Dawn because anytime we pick up an orb, this is going to cause us to be radiant, so this is going to be an excellent selection here. And then Counter Energy, when you're in any of the late game content, you are going to be stunning champions all the time, so are your teammates, so this is going to have energy gain to your least charge ability. For the last two aspects, we're going to select Shield Crush anytime we have Frost Armor, which will be pretty much all the time. That's going to have our melee recharge faster and do increased damage. And when we have Amplified or Radiant, which will also be pretty much all the time, our grenade will then recharge faster and create increased damage. Transference will then be the last selection here, gaining increased grenade and melee damage while we're transcendence. So we're going to throw all of our grenades, all of our melees, then switch to our weapons. If we shred out with our weapons here, this is going to have us have even more light and dark energy after our transcendence ends. For the mods for this build, we're going to start off with the helmet with Ashes to Assets. We're going to get super energy after grenade kills, and then we're going to select Strand and Void Siphons to where after we get rapid kills, which will be happening all the time, we're going to create tons of Orbs of Power just from our weapons. Onto the arms here, we're going to be selecting Firepower. This is going to allow us to create Orbs of Power after a grenade kill, and then we're going to select Heavy-Handed, which will then allow us to collect Orbs of Power after making a melee kill, and then Fastball just for the 1 point that we have available there to throw our grenades even farther. For the chest piece, this is basically just on the activity that you're performing, just switch it out to the resistance that you need, and then I select Strand Reserve so that we have more ammo for our call. For the boots, we're going to start out with Recuperation. This is going to allow us to regain health anytime we pick up an Orb of Power. Absolution will then have all of our abilities cooldowns reduced whenever we pick up an Orb of Power. And then we're going to select Void Weapon Surge so that our Void Weapon does more damage when we collect an Orb of Power and max out our armor charge. Finally, for the cloak, we're going to be selecting Powerful Attraction. Anytime we use our class ability, it's going to pick up any of the nearby orbs. And then also we're going to match this with 2 sets of bombers so that anytime we use our dodge, we're going to be able to reduce that grenade cooldown even further than we already are. Now moving on to the weapons, we did select earlier Facet of Bravery, so we're going to want to maintain and focus on Strand and Void weapons. So for in the kinetic slot, we are going to be using the Call. The first 2 perks are pretty much preference, but I do like Volatile Launch and Tactical Mag. When paired with Backup Mag, this will give us 15 in the magazine. But anytime we get a melee kill, it's going to give us Unraveling rounds, so using the Call is going to make it do even more damage. The next perk, I do highly recommend selecting Demolitionist. This will give us grenade energy anytime we get a kill with this weapon. Also, throwing a grenade will immediately reload this weapon with no animation, which is an excellent perk. It's one of my favorites in the game. And then when paired with Vorpal Weapon, any non-red bar enemies, this weapon will do even more damage than it already does. Vorpal Weapon is insane, even on main bosses in in-game content. It's just absolutely fantastic. And then it has Dealer's Choice as its last perk. That's going to pair well with the 2 things that we selected from our journal. Moving on to the energy weapon, I'm recommending Graviton Lance. This weapon is absolutely insane, and when you get a grenade kill using volatile rounds, is going to make it even better. If you have Buried Bloodline, you can throw that on. I have not gotten lucky enough to get it. And then for the power weapon, you can pretty much select anything you want. I just recommend that it is either a Strand or a Void weapon, so you can pair it with Facet of Bravery. I personally like Edge Transit. It's one of my favorite guns in the game, and when I have volatile rounds, this thing absolutely shreds. So thank you so much for everybody that watched today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. This is one of the funnest builds that I've made in Destiny 2. I have an absolute blast with this exotic piece, and I love the fact that this build does not revolve around an exotic class item. It's excellent in-game content, and like I said, it is just an absolute blast to play. Never running out of energy, just being able to spam your abilities. It's just so much fun. Let me know in the comments if you guys liked the build, if you made any tweaks or adjustments, and also if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. It helps grow the channel and lets me know that you guys want to see some more content like this. Thanks so much again, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care, Guardians.